this. We want to make sure that they can. Okay, I think we're recording now. Excellent. So I am serving as a 7th grade math teacher right now, and so that's kind of helped me, given me the opportunity to sharpen my skills. This year, I feel like as an ed tech coach for the last 7 years, it's been a minute since I've been in the classroom. I've helped lead classes before or during my stint as an ed tech coach, co-teach, co-plan, brainstorm, and all of those things. So I am really excited to have this opportunity to share something that I've learned from the classroom with you, that one of my favorite AI tricks and things that I have picked up, pulled out, and then tried to just really pull out all the stops and see how many of these things, these ed tech pieces that I can push in and see what's effective, what's engaging for students. And practice sets is definitely a good one. I double checked with my students today, actually, my 6th period class, and was like, okay, what do you really think about practice sets? And they were really excited, and they said, yes, we want to give some feedback. We love it because there are opportunities for us to get feedback quickly, so they don't have to wait on me to make it around to them. They also recognize that I'm able to spot check and see who is struggling, who's not getting things turned in, who's not started, and then also who is persevering and trying really hard but might need me to come to them directly to sit with them for just a minute and help get a launching point. And then they also mentioned by themselves, I did not prompt them, about the hints that are embedded in practice sets. And I can honestly say those are amazing because I do not have to curate all of them. I do need to double check them, but I don't have to curate them all. So let's just jump in. I'm going to talk about it for a bit, and then after that, I will, I'll give you an opportunity to dig in and see what you think about it. All right, so today's agenda, it is linked to each one of these. If you've got the PowerPoint pulled up or the Google Slides pulled up, and that one says capital T, capital C, capital S, practice in 2025. Each of these is linked, but they're also in order, so please make sure you put in the chat if you have any questions. I do not have sound on my side from you guys. I think it's a conflict between the two, trying not to have feedback. All right, so the why do I love practice sets? Well, first of all, let's talk about where our struggles are sometimes, especially as our class sizes may be a little bit larger than some than others. It gives me a quick who's got it, who needs help right now. I just explained a minute ago why my students liked it, because they don't have to raise their hand to tell me they're not getting it. I can see it quickly. I just leave it up on my screen, and then I walk through really fast and look at my screen really fast. And then I can see who doesn't. And so they don't have to identify themselves as someone who needs assistance at that moment. I can give meaningful feedback by simply just putting in hints as students are completing assignments. And I'll show you how to do that in a bit. And then I can do a quick check for understanding. I'll show you all the different ways that I've used this in my classroom. And for me with math, I don't know about how many math teachers are in here. I can just see a couple, see about 12 people in here. With math, I have found that if they practice things 10 times wrong, how many times am I going to have to reteach that skill before they get it? So we don't need practicing incorrectly, because practice does make permanent in the long run. All right, so what is practice sets intended to do? It's making the worksheets actually think. So you can use them to add interactive, supportive, streamlined, insightful assignments. Taking what you already have, you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can add PDFs that you already have. Make sure they're clean. I will say that. It does make a difference if they are clean versus copying straight out of a workbook. So make sure that you make it as much contrast as you possibly can. Google Forms, we are moving and transitioning to more SchoolNet-based assessments. So we've been able to take previous Google Forms, drop them into practice sets. Automatically, it pulls in all of the correct answers, and I'm using that as a study guide for my students so that they can get prepared for the exam on SchoolNet. And you can, of course, make your own. You can add your own questions. You can upload some from Google Form and then add your own questions beyond that. And then auto-grading and equivalent. So my math teachers, equivalent answers are an option. Obviously, if you get into Trig, it's going to get a little bit more complicated for those equivalent answers to pop up, but it will recognize it is a checkbox that you have to check to say, take equivalent answers. So as always with any AI, you need to go back and double check and make sure that everything is taken correctly and that your students get credit for what they have. Instant feedback, everybody loves it. My students specifically said in 6 block, that's why they love it, because there are 24 of them in that class and they cannot all wait until I can get around to them. And then curated hints. This is the piece of the AI that's really, really cool. It can give you embedded videos, text on the spot support. I will say though, always with AI, double check and make sure that the hints that they give are tied to exactly what you're doing. You can add skill sets to the specific question, so it will do a better job of picking exactly what hints it wants to give. So an example, Ms. Aluda gave today, she said that she had a question about ice cream cones, and it was not a volume of a cone problem, but it gave something about the volume of a cone because it said ice cream cone. So always double check those hints. And it will attach videos, and then some of the hints, the text hints that it gives, I really like. There are very few times I have to take out a hint. The automated insights, I'm going to give you a quick look at what one looks like. You can click class insights as students start to take the assessment. And I blocked out names. I didn't want to show specific names, but you can see where the boxes are. The person, and I can show you this in a bit, it says under insights, it says many students have attempted this particular problem, and it automatically identifies not how many got it wrong, but how many tried it the first time and didn't quite get it. And then the second piece it gives is this particular student, and I love how it says it. It says it that the student persevered through many attempts, not saying that they're not getting it, not doing well. It's just saying they're persevering and they're really trying hard and they're continually trying until they get the practice in. You may need to refresh periodically. So if you are someone who's used formative and those kinds of things, it's a little bit more automated, a little quicker to refresh. But if you are coming up for a quick check, just make sure you hit refresh really fast to make sure it is completely up to date. All right, math people, I'm going to address a concern I have. You've got to write down the math. You have to show your work. For me to be able to see your process, not just the answer of 4, I need to see your work. So how do I fix that problem? Right here. You take a white blank piece of paper. We're doing this right now at Brevard Middle School. We're folding it up. We're putting the name. We're putting the date, we're putting what question numbers, we're putting the title on the top of each of these. This is where their work goes. And then that way I can double check and look over their shoulders to see their work and not just a specific answer. So if I see that they're struggling, I come up to them, show me your work, and then I can identify exactly which question they're working on. And they do a pretty good job of this. And one problem per box. I will say I did have to address that. Make sure you put only one problem per box so that it's easy to figure out which ones we're going with. And then I'm also having them write a little bit larger. They've got more space. There is a workspace in the app. So if you are asking them to respond to like maybe their answer in some way, they can put a workspace inside of the app. But I will say, unless you have a touch screen, it's not really conducive to the math piece. But they could type out maybe details if you're reading a passage. So not just for math people. But I will say this one was created with math people in mind, and very few apps are actually start that way of having the math people in mind specifically. But they can write maybe little pieces that they pull out of an excerpt that you put in there and kind of keep track of them that way. I'm going to give you a quick peek into my classroom, and I'm going to kind of speed through this just a little bit. You, depending on where I go, you may or may not see some names, so I will pick accordingly to make sure that you guys get to see just a little bit of what I'm talking about. So here is my 6th period, 7th grade math, and my PD examples here, you can see that I've got a starter, a practice set, a study guide, and an exit ticket. Now, these are picked from different topics. This is not all one topic. And then it's different parts of a day. But I just wanted to show you that I use these for various parts of my lesson. So beginning of the lesson, end of the lesson is an exit ticket. I also use it as a practice. This one in particular was a practice set created from a Google form that was a previous assessment for that same topic. I dropped it in there as an import, and then students used it as a study guide to get ready for their SchoolNet test. Next, exit tickets, short and sweet. I try to keep them to just a couple of questions, and you can see here I had 16 turn it in and 7 assigned. That doesn't mean the 7 didn't do the problems. It just means they didn't click the turn in button. So I have to remind them every once in a while to do that. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. You may or may not have your own strategy. This is what I did with practice sets, starters 5 to 10 max, because I want to get them in, out, done. I can check it really fast and it can help direct what I'll do next in class. My practice, 10 to 15 questions. I'm going to show you really quick a practice that they did not too long ago. So here are my notes that I did with the students. I did fill in the blank notes because we needed to move fast. But I had the problems here at the end as you tries, and I took those problems and turned them into my exit ticket. So they had to be able to complete these 2 problems. They could show me their work right here on their worksheet, but let me show you where they turned that information in. Switching back to the tab. Sorry for all the tab switches. I want to make sure you see the presentation as well. So under this practice set specifically, and I didn't have to spend too much time creating this. That's the piece that I love about it. And this is the ITF account. So it hasn't been set up with these particular practice sets. It may need some tutorial stuff, but you can see here, I've got a try, you try too. They just put their answers in here under the you try section. I've already preloaded the answers in there. And then at the end, what is a complex fraction? I put a short response in there because I wanted to, the short responses are a little bit more difficult for it to grade, because depending on how long the response is, they may have some of the correct words. So you will have to, for short responses, go back in and manually grade those, but that's no different than even a Google form. So there is that. And I want to make sure you have a little bit of time to play with this. So I'm going to stop right here and make sure I don't have any questions in the chat. And then also mention that if you want additional CEUs, we do provide those. So you get the 30 minutes for attending today. And then you can also turn in a practice set where you have used it with students. And then let me know how it went, and we can give you an additional little bit of CEU credit for this. And if you want to go ahead and open Google Classroom, so you can kind of keep me to the side and go ahead and open Google Classroom so you have enough time to go ahead and find this resources set. It's under the main classroom page where you see all of your classrooms. And then you go to the resources tab right here, and that's where practice sets is located. Let me double check the chat, make sure we're good. Great. Excellent. Okay, well, if you have any more, it should pop up at the bottom of my screen. I was just specifically checking to make sure. All right, let's keep going. All right, let me make sure. There we go. Where do the questions come from for the specific practice sets that I use? You don't have to start from scratch. That's what I love about this. You can import from Google Forms, which is a very seamless import. You can, after you import it, you can delete questions if you want to. You can add additional questions if needed. It automatically imports the answers to the questions that you've had in the Google form, so you don't have to worry about having to re-enter anything. Strategy you could use if it's a vocabulary assignment, take the quiz you already have in Google Forms, drop it into practice sets. I've done this, and then you can use the exact same Google form as their quiz later on. No problem in seeing the same question twice. Snippets from PDFs. You can pull in a PDF. So if you have a worksheet, a tried and true worksheet, maybe you have a substitute teacher that day, the sub passes out the worksheet, you can attach a practice set to that, just like I did with this one. And then students answer on the practice set. You can see their progress as they go. You can check on it later to see which questions the students mostly missed. Even though you weren't there, you're still able to get that insight without having to come back and then look at those specific worksheets. Make sure it's clean copy. I want to re-emphasize that. I tried to do it from a worksheet from a workbook. It was not the best. That's why I liked using this strategy instead, where the questions were already either in a workbook on a worksheet, and then the students answer into the practice set. You can, of course, create your own. Math people, there is an embedded equation editor. So it will make 1/2 look like a stacked fraction. I love it. And it also has quite a few other math equations that you can plop in there really fast. It'll make it beautiful. And we don't have to worry about that. All right, AI. Where's the AI piece come in? Here's a little tip or trick. You can use AI. Gemini is now open in Google Classroom. So if you have Google Classroom open on the side, if you will go to the main classroom page, you will see just below resources, Gemini, and it comes up. It looks very similar to, I think it's Magic School. And then it has lots of different places that you can use some AI. It can generate lesson plans and those kinds of things. So this one's an honorable mention because I took the quiz maker in Gemini. I typed in the standard I wanted, what kinds of questions I wanted, how many questions I wanted, and it automatically generated a quiz for me, exported it as a PDF. I'll show you how to do that in a second, or as a Google form, and then uploaded it back into practice sets. So if you need something quick because you're sick and you need something just popped out, or me as a new teacher, I have lots of resources. I have multiple teachers providing me with information and practice sets and worksheets and various lesson activities. But every once in a while I need something that's about this big to fit into either a hole, a gap, a mid-topic assessment, an exit ticket. Everybody uses a little something different. I need something just a short amount of time, less than 10 minutes, to fill a gap in my lesson, and I can use this and quickly create that type of assignment. All right, so before I give you full, if you're ready to move on and you want to start clicking buttons, if you're like me and the best way to learn is to click buttons, go ahead. You can do that to the side, put questions into the comment section, and I will catch those. But for those of you who want just a little bit more of a quick show demonstration, then stick with me. I'm going to come back over to my Google Classroom, and I'm hopping over to the main page. We're going to leave this one because I don't need it. I'm at the main page. I'm going into Gemini. So this is that little side tip that I gave you just a second ago. Here was the one I used, generate a quiz and target grade, number of questions. I usually add a couple of questions. So if I want 5 questions, I say 8 questions so that I can feed through and weed out what I don't want. And then of course I can add 2. And then standard, scale, measurable result. Make sure you're really good at some prompting. I just copied and pasted my standard in there and then told specifically what kinds of examples I wanted. Moving over to the resources. This is where we find the practice set. All right, so under the practice set, oh, by the way, video activity, very similar to Edpuzzle if you're interested in something like that. So I'm going to create a new practice set. All right, and again, I'm going to get the tutorials because this is the first time this account has been into practice sets. Title it, of course, and then here are the buttons that you need. First of all, correct answers. Math teachers, here's your equation editor. It also will do an equation editor in here. And sounds good. No, it's okay. Thank you. All right, so if what I like about this too, sorry, plug for math teachers, I can add an equation or an expression of any kind, and then also add whatever text. I'm just going to kind of quickly throw some jibber jabber in there. And then I can add another. So it's in line. I don't have to worry about it trying to assume that everything is. So we'll do simplify this and blah, blah, blah. So you can do an equation, some text, and then an equation. So something that others do not have. See suggestion. It will automatically assume some options down here. So you may not even have to really dig, but you can also type whatever skill set you want in there. And at that point, it will provide, here, let me simplify a fraction. It needs to be simplified. Let's do 8/2. We'll see suggestions, write equivalent fractions, and then automatically down here, it pops up a couple of options for me. If I don't like them, typically they're 5 minutes or less, which is awesome. If I don't like them, I just take them out, preview them if you don't mind. Over here on the side, I need to move for my people here. I can move my Google Meet space. Over here on the side, you will see, let's see here. I'm trying to move my Google Meet section so that others can see. Over here on the side, you also have hints and helps that you can make for the entire set. You don't have to do this for each individual question that you use. You can add your own hints. You can go directly to YouTube if you have a YouTube video that you prefer, or of course, if you've recorded yourself providing a hint, you've got that as well. Okay, so that is the foundation of practice sets. I think this one is one where you just get in, you start clicking, start pulling in your own things. Down here at the bottom, you've got new question, creating your own. You've got insert text. So let's say you need a little bit of instruction here. You can drop that in, and then the importing, pull a file in from wherever. It does try to pop up the most recent thing. Here's what ITF was working on. You can pull that in as either a hint, or you can pull it in as a question and use the snipping tool. Okay, so take a moment, play around for just a minute. Before you leave, make sure you do the exit ticket. It's either at the end of the presentation, or you can also click at the beginning of the presentation. So a little shorter than normal, but take a few minutes, play, and then feel free to share. What you got?
I tried to import a PDF, but now it wants me to like snip the picture, but I can't fit the whole question on the page.
Good question. I've got a question here about snipping and using a PDF for putting in your questions. If you have a very extended question, one that's rather large, you are going to have a little bit more difficulty putting those into the practice sets. So for that one, I would suggest making a question tied to the actual worksheet itself, and then have students fill it in. Very similar to what you were doing the other day when I was in your classroom, where the kids had the worksheet and you were using formative, except you don't have to worry about filling it in. You just identify which question they're going to be using. Just a moment.
For like transformations, like this is what they look like on you. Like they're all like that.
The big, large questions.
They're all like that.
It's going to be difficult for those types of questions. You're going to need to have something just a little bit smaller, or provide a paper copy for them to write on or not write on, and then have them do that to the side. So that second strategy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit into the recording, and I will hang out here for just a minute if you need additional time or have questions.